Groucho Marx once said, "All geniuses die young." And that seems to be the public perception of the wild and crazy, risk-taking, yet fragile genius. Western geniuses who died young include rocker Kurt Cobain, died at 27, painter Jean-Michel Basquiat, died at age 27, poet Sylvia Plath, died age 30, Alexander the Great, 32, composer Franz Schubert, 32, Mozart, 35, poet Dylan Thomas, 37, painter Van Gogh, 37, and author Edgar Allan Poe, 40. But what about the geniuses we've met in this session? Marie Curie, even playing with dangerous radium almost daily for years. She lived to be 66. Edison died at 84. Tesla at 86. Do geniuses really die young? Or do a few sensational cases skew our perception? If they die young, why? If not, why not? One day I sat down and did some back-of-the-envelope calculations regarding genius and longevity. I made a list of what, in my mind, were the 10 greatest composers of Western classical music. You're encouraged to make your own list. Do some calculations for yourself. But for me, the 3 Bs were there: Bach, Beethoven, and Brahms, and of course Mozart and Wagner. And I also included the following: Schubert, Debussy, Mahler, Tchaikovsky, and Verdi. Adding their lifespan, I find on average that they lived 56.4 years. Of course, determining who's the greatest of anything is a very inexact science. I could have perhaps substituted Haydn and Handel instead of Verdi and Tchaikovsky, but that would have actually made the average higher, 61.2 years on average. Not trusting myself to be an expert of the 10 greatest painters, I used reputable lists drawn from the internet. It's a straightforward process. Leonardo, Michelangelo, Picasso, Van Gogh, Rembrandt, Goya, Monet, Manet, well, they were on almost every list. And with them, I got an average lifespan of 67.2 years. Yes, 67.2. Scientists and inventors: Newton, Einstein, Maxwell, Curie, Darwin, Edison, Tesla. Again, the lists online were pretty much in agreement. Here, the average was 75.3 years. These are long lifespans, shockingly long, if you consider that the average lifespan, even allowing for childhood diseases, was much shorter in earlier times. Lifespans didn't really begin to increase in the West really before about 1930, with the advent, 1930, 1940s or so, with the advent of antibiotics. Bach died in 1750 at the age of 65, when the average lifespan was 35, for example. If you don't believe my numbers, there's a study published in 2007 that showed that Nobel Prize winners who have lived on average to be 76 outlive not only the general populace, but also other scientists. Nobel Prize winners outlive other scientists. The takeaway here: Groucho Marx was wrong. Geniuses do not die young compared to everyone else. Geniuses live a very long time. Why? Why? Because they are passionate. They are passionate optimists. They believe, as we have said, that something is wrong with the world and that they can change it. And passionate or obsessive, they won't rest until they do so. And when they do fix the world, then they root around and find something else that's wrong with it. Again, geniuses are passionate optimists who are creatively discontent. Here are 2 quotes regarding optimism by 2 living figures who have changed the world. Geniuses. Both, ironically, are Harvard dropouts. First, Bill Gates. Gates has found lots of things that needed fixing. First with technology, then with viruses and vaccines, and most recently with climate change. Gates says this: "I've always been an optimist, and I suppose that is rooted in my belief that the power of creativity and intelligence can make the world a better place." End quote. And Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg, quote, "Optimists tend to be successful, and pessimists tend to be right. If you think that something is going to be terrible and it's going to fail, then you're going to look for the data points that prove you right. That's what pessimists do. But if you think something is possible, then you're going to try to find a way to make it work, end quote. Again, because they think they can fix the world, geniuses are optimists. Who lives longer, optimists or pessimists? Well, a summary of a joint Boston University School of Medicine and Harvard School of Public Health study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences in 2019 found, quote, when individuals were compared based on their initial levels of optimism, the researchers found that the most optimistic men and women demonstrate, on average, an 11 to 15% longer lifespan and 50 to 70% greater odds of reaching 85 years old compared to the least optimistic groups. So the takeaway for all of us, be a genius, or at least think like a genius. Get a passion. It will keep you alive longer. And in that regard, I'll end this session with my favorite saying about passion and longevity. I like it particularly because it's an oxymoron and thus involves irony, contrarian thinking, which again is the basis of all humor. It's a quote from the British sculptor Henry Moore, who lived to the ripe old age of 88. Here it is, quote, "The secret of life," he said, "is to have a task, something you devote your entire life to, something you bring everything to every minute of every day for the rest of your life. And the most important thing is, it must be something you cannot possibly do."